a very warm welcome to you. It is a good thing indeed that you have found your way to this quiet place, and I am so glad you have chosen to rest here for a while. This story was made with the simple hope of helping you find a little peace, a gentle quietening of the mind that might let you drift easily into a comfortable sleep. If you find this time together to be a comfort, a small kindness in your day, perhaps you might leave a like, subscribe to our little corner of the world, and share a quiet thought in a comment below. Tonight, we shall be visiting the Institute of Gentle Drifting, a place woven from water and light. Prepare to walk upon paths of soft reed, to listen to the music of flowers that chime, and to feel the warm glow of living lanterns guide you into a state of profound and restful stillness. Chapter 1, the first step onto the Reedway. There are, it is said, certain places in the world that one does not find with a map, but rather with a quiet heart. The Institute of Gentle Drifting was one such place, and Rowan arrived there on a day when the sky was the color of a pale washed cornflower, feeling the gentle pull of its tranquility long before it came into view. The final part of the journey was a simple path of packed earth, which smelled wonderfully of rich loam and fallen leaves, a scent that promised rest and a deep, settled peace. The air grew steadily quieter, as if the very trees were holding their breath, until all that remained was the whisper of a soft breeze and the sound of Rowan's own steady footsteps. The entrance was a thing of simple, unassuming wonder. There was no grand archway, no gate of wood or iron, simply a place where a colossal, continuous wall of living green reeds parted, forming a gentle, inviting opening. The reeds stood twice as tall as a person, their sturdy stalks a deep and healthy green, and their fluffy brown heads swayed in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. To step between them was to feel the world outside fall away completely, its noises and its hurries absorbed by the dense, living walls. The air inside instantly felt different, warmer, and somehow softer, carrying that comforting scent of damp soil and the sweet, clean fragrance of growing things. The path that stretched out before Rowan was a marvel of gentle craft. It was a wide walkway woven from countless thousands of reeds, creating a surface that was firm yet yielding, so that each footstep felt cushioned and supported. The color was a warm, silvery tan, and the intricate weave formed looping patterns that seemed to flow forward like a slow, solid river. It felt alive, breathing with a quiet energy beneath Rowan's feet. Lining this central artery of the Institute on both sides were the very same reeds that formed the walls, their tall forms creating a long, peaceful hallway open to the sky, a corridor of green and gold that promised only gentle discoveries ahead. It was here that Rowan first met Sylvan. They were standing a little way down the path, tending to one of the reeds with a slow, deliberate care that was a lesson in grace all by itself. Sylvan's smile was as warm and genuine as the afternoon sun, a silent offering of welcome that needed no words to be understood completely. They offered a simple, slow nod, a gesture of acknowledgement and peace, before turning their attention back to the reed their presence a part of the landscape's own serenity. There was no need for questions or introductions. In a place like this, presence was enough, and the quiet companionship felt as natural as the air itself. Walking onward, Rowan began to notice the more subtle details of the Institute. Small, clear canals of water ran parallel to the Reedway, the surface as smooth as polished glass, reflecting the soft blue of the sky above. The water made almost no sound as it moved, a current so slow and unhurried that it seemed to be merely thinking about flowing. Tiny, iridescent winged insects, like scattered jewels, hovered just above the surface, their low hum a pleasant, drowsy vibration in the air. Everything here moved with a purpose that was entirely its own, a cadence of profound and uninterrupted calm. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the clouds in hues of soft apricot and rose, the quality of the light began to change. Rowan observed that the fluffy, cattail-like heads of the reeds lining the path seemed to be drinking in the last of the day's warmth and color. A faint internal luminescence was beginning to build within them, a suggestion of a soft, golden energy being stored for the coming twilight. It was a quiet, natural magic, a slow process of gathering and preparing that felt as ancient and as comforting as the setting of the sun itself. It was the Institute's gentle way of promising that even in the dark, there would be a soft and steady light to guide the way. Rowan found a small alcove where the path widened, a sort of resting place woven into the walkway, and sat down upon the springy surface. The texture was smooth and warm against their palms, a comforting, solid presence. They closed their eyes for a moment, simply breathing in the sweet, clean air. A feeling of arrival, deep and true, settled in their chest, a gentle weight that was both grounding and liberating. It was the feeling of having found a place that understood the language of quiet, a sanctuary where the only requirement was to simply be. The first of the luminous reeds began to glow. It started as a faint pulse, a soft exhalation of golden light from deep within its downy head. Then another joined, and another, until the entire length of the path ahead was flanked by 2 rows of gently pulsing living lanterns. The light they cast was warm and kind, creating soft, dancing shadows that held no fear. It was a light that did not seek to expose, only to comfort and to soothe. And in that warm, golden glow, Rowan felt the last vestiges of the outside world melt away, replaced by a profound and peaceful sense of belonging. Chapter 2. The Language of Waterlight. The following days unfolded with the languid pace of a leaf drifting on a slow current, each moment blending into the next with a seamless, gentle grace. Rowan discovered that time at the Institute was measured not in hours or minutes, but in the shifting angle of the sun and the slow, rhythmic pulsing of the luminous reeds. There was no schedule to keep, no destination to reach. The sole purpose of each day was the simple, peaceful act of wandering, of drifting through the serene waterways and pathways, allowing the senses to open and receive the quiet wonders of the place. The Institute, Rowan learned, was a sprawling archipelago of small, loamy islands, each a soft mound of dark, fragrant earth, all connected by the intricate network of reedways. Low, arched bridges, woven from supple willow branches, crossed the wider canals, their forms so organic they seemed to have grown there naturally. Rowan would often pause in the middle of a bridge, resting a hand on the smooth, warm wood of the railing, and simply watch the water below. The canals were filled with the purest, clearest water, and the sandy bottom was visible in the shallows, rippled by the slow, constant current that flowed from some unseen, peaceful source. Much of Rowan's time was spent in quiet observation of the lumina reeds, which were the heart and soul of the Institute. By day, their fluffy heads were a simple downy brown, soaking in the sunlight with a quiet patience. Yet as twilight approached, their gentle magic would awaken. Sitting by the water's edge, Rowan would watch the transformation, the first soft pulse of gold that blossomed from within, a slow and steady beat that spread from one reed to the next, as if they were all connected by a single serene heartbeat. The light they cast upon the water created a beautiful shimmering tapestry, a dance of warm gold on the cool, dark surface. One afternoon, as Rowan sat tracing the patterns of light on the water with her eyes, Sylvan approached, moving with their customary silent grace. They carried two simple clay cups that steamed gently, giving off a delicate minty aroma. Sylvan sat beside Rowan, offering one of the cups, and for a long while they sat in companionable silence, simply watching the water and sipping the warm, soothing tea. The only sounds were the soft lapping of the canal against the earthen bank and the distant, contented hum of the dragonflies. The warmth of the cup spread through Rowan's hands, a comforting heat that seemed to travel up their arms and settle in their chest. After a time, Sylvan spoke, their voice a soft murmur that was just another part of the landscape's gentle sound. "They remember the light," Sylvan said, gesturing with their chin towards the glowing reeds. "They do not simply reflect it. They hold onto the warmth and the brightness of the day, and when the sky grows dark, they give it back as a gift." This simple, profound thought settled in Rowan's mind. The light was a memory, a kindness held and then shared. It made the warm glow feel even more comforting, like a story of a sunny day being told in a soft, golden whisper all through the night. Rowan began to walk the pathways after dusk, guided only by the steady, pulsing illumination of the lumina reeds. The world took on a completely different character in this gentle light. The darkness was not empty or vast, but soft and intimate, a cozy space defined by the warm glow. The reedways seemed to float above the dark, still water, and walking them felt like traversing a path of pure light suspended in a peaceful void. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of night-blooming flowers from one of the islands, a fragrance that was sweet and heady, yet delicate enough to be carried on the gentlest breezes. On these walks, Rowan's senses felt heightened and attuned to the subtlest details. They noticed the way the golden light caught the iridescent wings of a moth, making it flicker like a tiny living star, They could hear the gentle plop of a single drop of water falling from a broad leaf into the canal, and the soft, almost inaudible whisper of the reeds themselves as they swayed in the night air. It was a world of immense and intricate beauty, a beauty that revealed itself only to those who were willing to move slowly and listen with their whole being. One evening, Rowan trailed their fingers in the cool water as they walked beside a canal. The surface was silky and smooth, and the sensation was wonderfully refreshing. Looking down, they saw the reflection of their own hand, bathed in the golden light of the reeds, trailing faint, shimmering ripples in its wake. The world above and the world reflected below seemed to be one and the same, a perfect, unbroken sphere of peace. In that moment, Rowan felt a sense of complete belonging, of being a small, quiet part of the Institute's gentle, breathing life, as much a part of the scene as the reeds, the water, and the warm, remembered light. Chapter 3. The Hum of the Sunken Gardens. Drawn by a sound like the distant memory of music, a series of soft, resonant tones that seemed to drift on the air with no clear origin, Rowan ventured from the main Reedways. A smaller, winding path of smooth, cool clay led them downward, spiraling gently into the earth. The air grew cooler and more fragrant with every step, saturated with the clean scent of damp moss and a sweet, floral perfume. The path opened into a breathtaking sight, the Sunken Gardens, a series of terraced hollows carved into the land, each filled with a pool of water so still it perfectly mirrored the sky. These were the home of the chime lilies, pale bell-shaped flowers, almost translucent in their delicacy, floated in serene clusters on the surface of the pools. Their beauty was a thing of quiet wonder, yet their true magic was revealed in sound. Along the terraced walls of the garden, thick, velvety moss grew in lush abundance, and from this moss, single drops of collected dew would periodically fall. When a droplet struck the surface of a chime lily's petal, the flower would release a single impossibly clear and pure musical note. It was not a sharp sound, but a soft, rounded toll that hung in the cool air for a long moment before fading into silence. Rowan sat on a low clay bank, which was still warm from the afternoon sun, and simply listened. A drop would fall here, releasing a low, sonorous hum. Another would fall across the pool, answering with a higher, lighter note. A gentle breeze sighing through the garden might brush against a whole cluster of lilies at once, creating a soft, harmonious chord that shivered across the water. It was a symphony of chants and tranquility, a piece of music being composed in real time by the garden itself. The sound was deeply soothing, seeming to vibrate not just in the ears, but deep within the chest, loosening any knots of lingering tension. The source of the garden's cool, misty atmosphere was the haze moss. It grew in thick, emerald green carpets on the shaded banks, and it felt wonderfully soft and springy to the touch. In the gentle warmth of the day, the moss continuously released a fine, silvery mist that hovered in the air, softening the edges of everything and casting the garden in a dreamlike haze. To walk through it was to feel a refreshing coolness on the skin, and the mist carried a wonderfully clean, sweet scent, like cucumbers and fresh rain. It muffled the world, creating a sense of cozy, safe enclosure. Sylvan found Rowan there, as they often did, appearing with their usual quiet grace. This time, they carried a small woven tray with a clay pot of tea and 2 cups. The tea was brewed from the fallen petals of the chime lilies, and its fragrance was as delicate as its sound. They sat together on the warm bank, wrapped in the cool mist and the gentle chiming music. The tea was warm and had a faintly sweet floral taste that was both comforting and refreshing. No words were needed. The shared silence, punctuated by the lily chimes, was a conversation in itself, an expression of mutual contentment and appreciation for the profound peace of the garden. Rowan leaned back, resting their head against a thick patch of the haze moss. It was like resting on a cool, supportive cloud. Through the shimmering mist, they watched the light filter down from the world above, creating shifting, dappled patterns on the surface of the water. The combination of the cool, fragrant air, the warm tea spreading through their body, and the gentle, resonant chimes created an experience of total sensory peace. It was a place where all the senses were soothed at once, where the body could let go of its own accord, feeling safe, held, and utterly serene. A small, vibrant blue frog no bigger than Rowan's thumb hopped onto a nearby lily pad, its throat pulsing with a silent rhythm. It sat for a long moment, a tiny jeweled statue in the heart of the garden's tranquility. Rowan watched it, captivated by its stillness, its perfect placement in the scene. Every element of the garden, from the chiming flowers to the misting moss to this tiny silent creature, seemed to exist in a state of perfect, unhurried harmony. It was a powerful lesson in the beauty of just being, of finding one's place and resting in it with quiet acceptance. As the afternoon waned, the chiming grew softer, the mist a little thicker. The sunken gardens were settling down for the evening. Rowan felt a deep sense of gratitude for this hidden sanctuary, for its quiet music and its cooling embrace. The experience felt like a deep, cleansing breath for the soul. Rising to leave, Rowan carried the memory of the sound with them, the gentle, harmonious chimes seeming to echo softly in their mind, a peaceful, internal music that promised a night of deep and restful calm. Chapter 4. The Cadence of Stillness. A profound quiet began to settle within Rowan, a stillness that mirrored the calm waters of the Institute. It was a gentle, cumulative peace, built from quiet moments of observation and sensory immersion, which now felt as though it had become a permanent part of their own inner landscape. The desire to constantly be moving, to be exploring and discovering, slowly dissolved, replaced by a deep and abiding contentment in simply being still. Thoughts that once raced through the mind now drifted by as slowly and gently as the fluffy cattail seeds that floated on the afternoon air, observed with a distant, gentle curiosity rather than anxious engagement. Rowan found a favorite spot on a small, secluded island where a single ancient willow tree trailed its long, graceful branches into the water. Beneath it, grew a thick carpet of the softest, greenest moss, which would always cool to the touch and smelled of damp earth and life. Here, Rowan would spend hours, sometimes sitting, sometimes lying on their back, feeling the wonderfully supportive cushion of the moss beneath them. The gentle weight of their own body felt comforting, a pleasant, grounding sensation that connected them to the steady, patient earth. The world was reduced to the rustle of willow leaves and the soft lapping of water. From this peaceful vantage point, Rowan's focus turned to the smallest of details. They would watch a single water snail make its slow, deliberate journey across a broad lily pad, leaving a faint, silvery trail in its wake. They observed the intricate lace-like patterns on a dragonfly's wings as it rested on a lumina reed, its body a shimmer of iridescent blue and green. There was a whole universe of quiet, intricate life unfolding in every moment, a world of immense beauty that asked for nothing more than to be noticed. This act of focused, gentle observation quieted the mind more profoundly than any effortful meditation ever could. The rhythmic pulse of the lumina reeds became a soothing, constant companion. As Rowan rested under the willow, they would often synchronize their breathing with the slow, gentle beat of the light, an inhalation as the golden glow softened, an exhalation as it brightened to its peak, in and out. The rhythm was so natural, so calming. It felt like listening to the slow, steady heartbeat of the Institute itself. This simple act anchored Rowan completely in the present moment, dissolving any lingering wisps of past or future until all that existed was the gentle light, the soft moss, and the easy, effortless rhythm of their own breath. A deep sense of acceptance bloomed within Rowan, acceptance of the quiet, of the slowness, of the simple beauty that surrounded them. There was nothing to achieve, nothing to fix, nothing to strive for. The world of the Institute was perfect in its gentle, ongoing existence, and Rowan felt a profound relief in simply being a part of it, a quiet observer in a world of profound peace. This feeling was a release, a gentle letting go of unnoticed tensions held in the shoulders, in the jaw, in the space between the eyebrows. It was a silent internal sigh of deep and lasting contentment. One afternoon, a light rain began to fall. The drops were soft and warm, and they landed on the surface of the canal with a sound like 1,000 gentle whispers. Rowan did not move from their spot under the willow, feeling protected by its dense canopy. The scent of the air changed, becoming rich with the fragrance of rain on dry earth, a wonderfully clean and restorative aroma. The rain also brought the sunken gardens to life, and the distant, harmonious music of the chime lilies drifted across the water, each drop of rain playing a note in the gentle percussive symphony. It was a lullaby sung by the Institute itself. Sylvan came by in their small, flat-bottomed boat, which they propelled with a single pole, moving through the water with silent, effortless skill. They did not stop, but simply smiled and gave a slow, gentle wave as they passed by Rowan's Island. The wake of the boat was a series of soft, concentric ripples that spread outwards until they disappeared, a fleeting, beautiful pattern on the rain-dappled water. The interaction was simple, warm, and unobtrusive, a small thread of connection in the vast, peaceful tapestry of the afternoon, a reminder of the gentle, shared solitude of this place. As the rain softened to a fine mist and the sun began to emerge, a soft, hazy light filled the air. The world seemed to glow with a clean, washed radiance. Rowan felt a sense of being deeply rested, as if they had slept for 100 years, yet they had been awake and aware for it all. The stillness had seeped into their very bones, a profound and peaceful state of being that felt both ancient and new. It was the gift of the Institute, the quiet lesson that the deepest restoration comes not from doing, but from simply allowing oneself to be held by the gentle cadence of a peaceful world. Chapter 5. A Pocketful of Quiet. The time came not as an ending, but as a gentle continuation, a quiet understanding that the peace of the Institute was now a part of Rowan's own inner landscape. There was no distinct moment of decision, no feeling of a journey concluded. It was more like the slow, natural turning of a season, a subtle shift in the air that suggested it was time to carry the stillness that had been so generously given back out into the world. The calm was no longer just a place to be visited. It was a feeling to be inhabited, a quiet space that existed within. Deeply on this last morning, Rowan walked the main Reedway, the woven path feeling as familiar and comforting as the floor of their own home. The air was cool and exceptionally clear, and the scent of the haze moss from the Sunken gardens had drifted up to mingle with the honeyed aroma of the lumina reeds. The sun was just rising, casting a soft, rosy light across the landscape, and the water in the canals was the color of liquid pearl. Every detail seemed especially vibrant, imbued with the gentle magic of a fond farewell. Sylvan was waiting at the place where the path parted, at the very entrance to the Institute. They held no grand farewell gift, only a simple, warm smile of understanding. They had been a constant, reassuring presence, a guardian of this peace whose lessons were taught not in words but in serene action and quiet companionship. Their presence had been one of the Institute's greatest comforts, a living embodiment of its gentle, welcoming spirit. They stood together for a moment in easy silence, listening to the world awaken around them. Then Sylvan held out their hand. In their palm lay a single smooth, dark seed, no larger than a pebble. It was cool and solid to the touch. "From a chime lily," Sylvan murmured, their voice soft as always. "It will not grow anywhere else, but it will remember the music." They gently folded Rowan's fingers over the seed. It was a small, tangible piece of the Institute's quiet, a weight in the palm that felt like a promise. Rowan knew they would carry it always, a gentle anchor to the profound calm they had rediscovered in this place. As Rowan held the small seed, a sense of profound and gentle warmth spread through their chest. It felt like gratitude, pure and simple, gratitude for the pulsing light of the reeds, for the soft moss under the willow, for the chiming music of the lilies, and for the quiet kindness of a friend. These memories were not sharp or vivid, but soft and impressionistic, like watercolors blending together into a single overwhelming feeling of peace. It was a feeling as solid and as real as the seed in their hand. Stepping through the parting in the tall reeds felt different this time. It was not like leaving a sanctuary behind, but rather like carrying that sanctuary with them. The sounds of the outside world, the rustle of ordinary leaves in an ordinary wind, did not seem jarring. Instead, they felt like they were now just one layer in a much deeper silence, the quiet of the Institute now forming a constant peaceful foundation within Rowan's own mind. The world hadn't changed, but Rowan's way of experiencing it had been transformed. Rowan paused on the earthen path outside the Institute and looked back. The great wall of reeds had already closed, leaving no trace of the opening, as if it had never been there. The Institute kept its secrets for those who knew how to find it with a quiet heart. There was no sadness in this parting, only a feeling of gentle completion. The lessons of aimless wandering and thoughtful observation had been fully absorbed, integrated into the very fiber of their being. With the smooth, cool weight of the chime lily seed nestled safely in their pocket, Rowan turned and began to walk away. Each step felt light and unburdened. The path ahead was unknown, yet it held no anxiety. The gift of the Institute was the knowledge that peace is not a destination to be reached, but a way of walking, a way of breathing, a way of being in the world. And with a pocket full of quiet and a heart full of calm, Rowan was ready for whatever gentle discoveries lay ahead.